The Dodgers are in hot pursuit of starting pitching on trade deadline day. A Clippers player discovers his inner Ja Morant. And the Rams try to rebuild their offensive line. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is August 1st, 2023. We added a new subscriber to the Angeleno Familia yesterday. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. It really makes me happy with every one of you that gets in. If you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And comment. There's always good stuff to talk about when it comes to LA sports. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Yesterday? Nothing. I celebrated yesterday's day off. I took the wife to go get refitted for a new brassiere. What size is she? Let's just say she's never getting cheated on, straight up. Meanwhile, today, Oakland is at the Dodgers at 7. Lance Lynn makes his Dodgers debut. He is 6-9 with a 6.47 ERA. Ken Waldichuk for the Vegas A's, if you will, 2-6 with a 6.38 ERA. Also, the New York Liberty are playing the Sparks at 7. The WNBA is hilarious. LA is 9-16. 9-16. And one game out of a playoff spot. What? But let's get to the news. The trade deadline is at 3 p.m. today, and if the Dodgers make deals, and let's be real, that's extremely likely, we'll come back later this afternoon with a recap of all the Dodger deals that went down. Try and figure out what, if the Dodgers then become title contenders once again. We've been following all of the rumors that have been going on about the Dodgers with our alleged Dodgers interest dry erase board. The writers are nuts. They chose as many as 37 players claiming the Dodgers were interested in them. And so far, they've only been right on 2. 2 of the 37. I've been crossing other names off the list of players that have gone elsewhere. Whatever. But let's get to the so-called latest. Many scribes from USA Today, from the LA Times, The Athletic, MLB.com, the New York Post, they all agree that the Dodgers are in the mix for Mets starter Justin Verlander, as are his former team, Houston, also Atlanta, Baltimore, and even the Slum Diego Padres. LA also would like left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez of Detroit. Now, Detroit, they look at Rodriguez and they think of him as a free agent to be. That there's no way they're going to be able to keep the young lefty. This is according to Major League Baseball.com writer John Heyman. What is the difference then between the two? Well, money. You're saying, well, wait, James, isn't Verlander the one getting all this fat contract because he's got 3 Cy Youngs, and when he shows up to pitch, you can sneak a peek at Kate Upton? Well, yeah, that's true. It is. But the Mets traded away Max Scherzer last week, and in addition to the trade, they promised to pony up for Scherzer's salary. Apparently, they would do the same for Verlander. So that would bring his price, in terms of the money you're paying, lower. Of course, if they're paying for some of the money, that means the prospects you have to offer become higher. We'll get to that in a second. In addition to that, if Rodriguez, who is a free agent to be, the way Detroit looks at him, now what do you have if you're the Dodgers? Well, you'd be looking at trying to pay for a free agent in Shohei Ohtani from the Angels. Do you actually put money in to keep Julio Urias? And then on top of that, you add Rodriguez? How deep is the Dodger bank account anyway, right? At some point, you got to figure these guys have got to tap out and say, we can't afford every elite pitcher out there. Just saying. Having said all of that, the Astros are Verlander's preferred choice. That is the scuttlebutt, and I believe it to be true because he pitched there before. He got the Astros to a World Series. Whatever happens, acquiring Verlander would come at a cost. If he was traded to LA, the Mets are known to covet, for example, Emmett Sheehan as a starting point. So there you are. We'll be back at 3, maybe 3:30 with updates. Noah Syndergaard arrived in Cleveland and reflected on his brief time in Los Angeles. He did so in a manner that makes you think that it was a welcome divorce for both sides. Quote, "I think over the last 2 years, I've had a lot of cooks in the kitchen. I think it's going out there and not really listening to what people think I should or should not be doing, but going out there and feeling and doing what feels good and natural to me," unquote. In other words, he's had Dodger coaches micromanage him. He had Philly coaches micromanaging him. He had Angel coaches micromanaging him. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I would say there probably is a hint of truth to it. But the results are still the same. So, good luck, dude. Good luck. Mookie Betts went on a podcast I'll never listen to and told the host he never wanted to be traded to the Dodgers back in 2020. Quote, "I know people who don't believe it, but I wanted to stay in Boston my whole career. That was my life. I knew everybody there. It was a short flight to Nashville. It was perfect," unquote. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean you should read anything into it. He describes life in LA as a blessing in disguise for his family, that the experience has been awesome. So just a little something to put in your head. Not about potential drama down the road, but just simply the fact that he enjoys being an Angeleno. When I lived in Hollywood, I was a much bigger jerk than I am now. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm a jerk. But back then, when I was living in Hollywood, I was to jerkhood like Vlad the Impaler was to Romania. I was an uber jerk. I was the King Kamehameha of buttholes. That's how crazy I was when I lived in Hollywood. I do this for my fun in spare time. Back when I was in Hollywood for my spare time, I used to run a website called shoulderpadsandhandcuffs.com, which capped on pro football players and other pro athletes whenever they would get arrested. It was a lot of fun, just poking fun at athletes, get in their mug shots. It was always hilarious to me. So anyway, when Clippers shooting guard Amir Coffey gets arrested Sunday for allegedly tooling around Los Angeles with a gun in his car, it made me a little misty-eyed, thinking about the good old days. I got a word of advice for Amir. By the way, can I call you Amir? You're not supposed to drive around with a gun in your car. That's not what you do. You dance around with it for likes on TikTok. That's what you do. Ask Ja Morant. You're not supposed to drive with it in your lap. You just go, yeah, real, yo, real. That's what you do when you have a gun. Use your head. Use your head. And by the way, when the cops pulled the car over, here's a shocker, smelled like weed. Come on. Now, someone else in the car was cited for possession, but nobody else partook. Okay, I believe you. Look, guys, I don't like to judge. I know people who have like legit medical issues and need the weed, legit medical issues, not this whiny, oh, I have trouble sleeping. People who like have cancer or whatnot. I've seen people who need medical weed. So I'm not trying to judge that, but it just strikes me odd because, you know, you have these people who sell things that try to like cleanse the weed out of your system before you take a piss for a drug test. I know people who pay other people for little vials of piss so they can just pour it in to the little container for their drug test. But you know what's a good plan that would make you a millionaire? The car deodorant that gets the weed out of your car before the cops rap on your window. That would be an insta money maker. You have all these guys on doing their little 30-minute ads and late night TV for things that keep your car from leaking, for things that keep your roof from leaking. I want the thing that keeps the weed scent from going out into the cop's nose. If you're the one who invents it, you're welcome. Matthew Stafford was ranked 10th, tier 2, in the Athletic quarterback rankings. The Athletic being the news site, their quarterback rankings. He's been in tier 2 for 10 consecutive years, according to the scribe who put it together. Now, an offensive coach said something about Stafford in reviewing the quarterback that I think is extremely worrisome. Quote, "I don't know if they can protect well enough for him. Does he really give a bleep enough at this stage of his career to be disciplined, or is he just going to wing it when it gets a little tight and just force balls when he can? Remember Phillip Rivers at the end of his career with the Chargers when he threw 21 interceptions and just said, F it. That's what I'm worried about," unquote. So I bring all of that up because the question becomes, how do you protect Matthew Stafford? Because if you don't, the entire Rams season just comes apart. It's just that simple. Seriously, unprotected quarterback plus entirely new defense, that equals winning the Caleb Williams draft lottery. Straight and simple. Now, the Rams did take steps in the offseason to address the offensive line. They changed the coach. They brought in Ryan Wendell from Buffalo. The players like him because he's a former NFL lineman who understands the technical aspects of playing the position. Currently, though, we have 3 of the 5 positions possibly spoken for. In other words, the line is still in flux. You have Rob Havenstein mostly locked in at right tackle. You also know that the starting line will probably have rookie Steve Avila and third-year player Tremaine Johnson at the guards. Okay. But we don't know who the starting center is. That could be Coleman Shelton or Brian Allen. We don't know if it's Alaric Jackson or Joe Notebook at left tackle. In other words, the guy who calls the blocking scheme, the center, and the guy who protects Stafford's blind side, we don't know. The 2 most important positions for Stafford are not locked up. So if you're saying to yourself, that's a problem, you're right. If you're saying that the Rams have no choice but run the ball, I wouldn't blame you. And if you're thinking maybe, well, we can buy a little extra half a second to a second by running the play action to protect Stafford, I think that's pretty smart too. But the problem with that is Matthew Stafford hates running the play action. Jared Goff loves running the play action back in the day. Matthew Stafford, not so much. So the Rams do have issues. Their entire season rests on the ability to keep Matthew Stafford healthy and to keep him okay with the idea of potentially a lot of pressure. I mentioned the quarterback rankings in The Athletic earlier. They also placed Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert in tier 1, but not everybody who took part in this little thing of ranking the quarterbacks agreed with that assessment of him being in tier 1. A coach in the NFL said, to be at the top tier, quote, "Don't lose with that kind of lead in the playoffs. Make a play when you had plenty of opportunities to make one," unquote. Can you argue with that? Now, having said that, Herbert was ranked the 5th best quarterback overall in the NFL. Coach Brandon Staley gave Herbert an unofficial light day of work yesterday in the sense that apparently most of the play calls during 11-on-11 drills were running plays. And that was on purpose. Not to give Herbert a day of rest, but to see if the defense was ready to get smacked around by the offensive line and the running backs. Remember, run defense was a massive problem for the Chargers last year. The Bruins add a 3-star cornerback from Michigan to the class of 2024 in recruiting. Jameer Benjamin originally committed to Northwestern, but he flipped. He's 5'7", 170 pounds. He is the number 10 high school recruit from the state of Michigan. Also, former Bruins running back Zach Charbonnet is injured at Seattle's camp. He is out indefinitely with a shoulder injury, which sucks for him because it came at a time when he could have made a bigger impression on the coaching staff. The Seahawks starter, Kenneth Walker, also injured. Charbonnet could have been in a position to grab some real playing time. It's not happening now. And now it's time for two stories that I don't have any faith in whatsoever, but I'm going to be a professional, allegedly, and let you know. Stop number one, let's go to Miami. There is a writer for The Ringer, a website that goes into sports and pop culture. This guy asserts that if the Miami Heat do in fact trade for Portland's Damian Lillard, then Jaime Jaquez Jr., formerly of UCLA, would be on his way to Portland. One writer, no sources. Pulling names out of his booty, frankly. But if it's true, the next thing you know, Jaquez goes from South Beach to standing knee-deep in snow and human feces. So I'm not so sure Jaquez is really looking forward to that. I mean, dude, I worked in Portland earlier this year. I swear to God that the Trailblazers Arena is surrounded by a ring of tents for the homeless. That is not joking. Not joking. Even Crypto.com Arena forces you to move your little pimple-shaped tents under the bridge down the road. Not in Portland. And they all look alike. They're all covered in dirt. They just look like these little green warts all over the city. It's just gross. The second story I don't buy, the Athletics Lakers reporter is reporting that the Lakers see newly signed Jackson Hayes as someone who could start. I don't buy that. Sorry. The Sparks have signed Avina Westbrook to a 7-day emergency contract. This isn't the first time they've had to do that. You are allowed to do so when you have so many injuries that you can't even field 9 players. So once again, the Sparks, I can't even say you gotta love them. I'm just saying you gotta scratch your head to them, man. I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know why the WNBA exists. I'm just gonna be real. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about what the Dodgers could do before the trade deadline or which pitcher you would like. Tell me about the Rams offensive line. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.